Usron tropo Namo nyine tipro Kode no nwa kombo Oh samokron Pena fanonye Nyono komwe yansi atia munombo Yenu mona to your wedgie, Yoni on no woe, Cletty wetty wetly, oh Mungo man, Penade way, Omuna we won't, Omuye too, ye more die. Sono mosienyo o mona kunyo nye kodrudini ane sonja pri kwinyo wrawrenyo ye mu besie nye swa mona wiwo o munjetu e modeko
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of On Point. It is Sunday at 4 o'clock on the East Coast. It is On Point, and I am telling you there is no shortage of political pointers in Liberia. With me are some of the great minds in Liberian politics, in Liberian diplomacy, in Liberian history. and we're going to be discussing issues as they appear on our screen. There are a lot of topics going on in Liberia. We are talking about the failure of the National Elections Commission in publishing the final registration. If that is the case, that's what the opposition are saying. We are talking about several drug busts in Liberia. Is the government doing a great job in bringing these people to the limelight? The candidate Joseph Boakai says if he loses his election by whatever means that he doesn't agree with, Liberia will come to an end. By what means? We will delve into that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a great day, and we are going to delve into some of these issues. President, we are returned to the country, and the question was asked, and he replied to the opposition. Now listen to this. There will be no more checkpoint in the Republic of Liberia. He can assure you this is a matter of peace. And then if we have time, we are going to listen to a recording by Chief Cyril Allen in reply to Prince Johnson and warmongering. Let me introduce our guest here, my co-host here, Mr. Eastman. How are you, my friend?
Mr. Gayman, just like you said, a lot of things are going on in the country as the election day draws near. We are hearing threats and all kinds of statements, irresponsible statements, if I may add, as if the only way to resolve our problems will be through violence. Is a disappointment. It is a mockery of the sacrifices that have been made already to bring about peace in Liberia. But we will get into the matter a little bit later. I'm glad that we're here today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elvis Melvin. Welcome. I know hopefully your Minnesota Vikings is doing well. My Miami Dolphins is putting a beating on Denver here. We have scored 70 points on the Denver on the Broncos. Welcome, Mr. Morris, to the show, and you are quite familiar with the topics here.
Right. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gayman, and hello to you, Mr. Eastman. I think, like Mr. Eastman said, Joseph Boyka, of all people making those kind of threatening remarks, it's for me. When the show starts, we'll get into it, but I blame President Weah for it because Joseph Boyka have the backings of Prince Johnson, Joshua Bly, so he feels emboldened to make these kind of statements. As far as we know, Joseph Boyka is not a warrior. He didn't participate in our war, although there are speculations that he helped fund the local defense force. But for him to make those statements, he must have some serious backing from those former warlords to have confidence to make such a statement. But we'll get into it when the show starts. But again, thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please do us a favor and share the show. Guys, gentlemen on the show here, please share the show on your wall, in your personal messenger contacts. Let's bring more people on. Let's discuss. This is very, very serious. We have the representative from the Unity Party. Please inform all your Unity parties to come on and defend what they are saying. If you are from the Gonglo camp and the folks want to tune in and tune one of the messages, please send it to everybody in yours. If you're in the diplomatic corps, like Mr. Eastman, honorary diplomat, you can send it to everybody in your link. Mr. Gonglo, welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is my first time on your show, right?
Yes, sir. And we're gonna give you the honorary drink here, and that's not King Juice, that's real water.
Well, I don't drink King Juice. I'm happy to share the platform with Elvis, who is an ardent listener of Tough Talking Thursday, and also Brother Eastman, and coincidentally, Brother Alio Kamara and I just entered the studio together, and it seemed that I think it's a harbinger. It tells what is about to happen.
Yeah, he said he was waiting for you. He said he sent it for you. So just so you know.
I mean, and I was going to work out of this show if there was no Baga representative.
That's right. You see, I can tell Jimmy Eastman is a big troublemaker in middle school. You see what he's saying? He finished snitching on the man.
Yeah,
Tell him to
no,
let
no,
him
you're
go
not even
when
listening
you're
to that.
ready.
Is that the trouble? Is that the our trouble?
Mr. Kamara, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my brother. Always good to be here.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, please do us a favor. Share this show. Share this show. We want the show to be very interactive, and we want to say thank you to Mr. Sam Waller, who has always been on the show commenting, sometimes pro, sometimes against, but most of the time he does it in the middle. So we appreciate him to be on the show with us. Mr. Kamara, if you can see, I know you and Mr. Gonglo were not here. So I'm going to go over the topics again. We're having a lot of political issues on the ground. And for the next 2 weeks, or a little over 2 weeks, it's going to be like a buffet, political buffet. You can just close your eye and pick any topic. But for today, we are talking about the drug issues in the country. We're talking about the NEC's perceived failure and their address to the nation on the voter list. Then we're going to talk about Liberia being ended by Joseph Boakai if he loses the election. Is he suicidal? Because if he ends Liberia, blow up Liberia, he lives in Liberia, he himself going to die. So he's waiting to do that. We're also going to be talking about the president's answer to Joseph Boakai and the opposition. He said he can guarantee the world that there will be no more security checkpoints in the Republic of Liberia as guaranteed by the CDC. Let's get ready to roll, rock and roll. Mr. Eastman.
Yep.
You are an ardent follower of Liberian politics. You may have listened to the NEC this gone week. There was a demonstration or a facade or show which some of the female actors in Liberia, when they are bored or they're not in the news, they try to put themselves in the news. They protested in front of the first they said the country was going to come to a standstill. They were going to shut down Monrovia with their protest. And there were a few people milling around the Elections Commission, and the election commissioner had a press conference and addressed the issue. What is your take on the voter registration list here?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gayman. When it comes to that, there's enough blame to go around. The NEC is the responsible body to compile a list, the list of registered voters. They have a separate budget, and by right they should be autonomous of government functions. Their functions is mainly to conduct free and fair elections within the country. Now, there has been concern throughout this year of the NEC having the amount of money necessary to do the job they are there for. We've heard that even though there were allotments made in the budget for the NEC to carry out its functions, but the disbursement had not been verified. And that has been concerns have been raised about that. Now that we are we're just days away from the election now. We still notice that the final voter registration list has not been circulated and is not available. Senator Dillon in a session earlier this past week with the NEC boss, Davietta Brown, asked similar question. When will they receive the final list? And she alluded to something like next week. Now, from all professional view and perspective, this should be a definite date. Now, if there's a problem that the NEC could not meet its mandate, they are supposed to provide a reason. They're not a clandestine organization, whereas if they're unable to do something, they don't have to explain it. They should explain whatever issues they have to the legislature, primarily, and for their reasons. So I hold them accountable when it comes to this. That you should have come up with a list, and if you don't have it, what is the reason? You owe that much. You owe that explanation. We have to hold all our institutions to a standard. That's the only way things will work right. Everybody has to operate at a standard. Now, things do happen, but it's still unforgiving that they haven't given us a reason what is causing the delay and why, and a reason why we haven't seen it yet. So I think NEC here is partly to blame. Not because the delay can't occur, but they have not yet to provide a sufficient reason for it not being available now. So I think there's a plenty of blame to go around, and we need to make them give us an explanation as to why this is happening so close to the election date.
Great. Mr. Kamara, welcome to the show. On Friday, David Etta Brown had a press conference where she said she informed the political parties and all stakeholders that the final results and all documentation will be done through electronic means. They will send it to all the stakeholders, to all the party chairs, to the EU, to all the different foreign embassies. And from what we understand, that was done.
There's something wrong with David Etta Brown's approach. I can't say too much because Mr. Ismail has already brushed over most of the things that I know that I would have had to say. But David Etta Brown must understand that the Liberian people are apprehensive as to how she functions. She has a cloud of corruption hanging on her. She was accused of breaking the law in terms of procurement, and she went to court. She, Musa Belletti and others through the CDC bail her out. We know about that. She was taken. This is a woman that was seen with a national party chairman of a political party in the country, released on bail by about $300,000. Her case has never been adjudicated. She's never gone back to court. However, she still remains the national elections chairman. So we're concerned about how much influence she has and what negative impact would that influence have on the elections. And these have been our concern. Then to add insult to injury, she goes to the House of Legislature and promises the body that she would bring this whole voter roll, blah, 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 out by the 18th. The 18th comes back, she refuses to communicate with the House, and when pressure is mounted, she goes on national radio and asks people to read her lips, and pretty much made a threat, a vehement threat, that no one can do her anything. Now, she is reason why things are spiraling apart. That press conference has caused more problem than damage. But to come out and say that she would do this electronically, more than 4 million of our population have no access to internet. More than 4 million of our population have no access to these digital devices. So to say she would do it electronically, what about the vast majority of the people? We said to her, take these information to the various polling locations where this registration took place. Put it on the wall where people can read it. You don't have to make it a secret. So she keeps, I don't know if she intends, because we've also seen some very, very reputable election process that she has spearheaded. We saw the 2019, we saw the 2020, we saw a couple other by-elections after that. We saw her, for the most part, play a neutral role. But, what she's saying and how she's acting, there's a little, ambiguity. So as a result, people are very apprehensive. And all I can say at this point, be very careful.
Great. Mr. Gonglo, I think it was on the 10th of last month, the Elections Commission posted a list of registered voters, and we were informed that you needed to go to your various places of registration to check to verify that your names and your whatever ID you have is correct. And if you lost anything, that you go and do the requisite ratification. They were formed. If you lost your ID, I think it was $5 US. They have put all of these, and some of us who were here were telling our folks to go to Buchanan, to the different places where you register, look on the wall, see your names are there. So this woman is doing what she's doing. And when she said to make correction with Mr. Kumar here, Kamara, excuse me,
Kamara.
when they say they are presenting the final roster to the stakeholders, that's not a Republic of Liberia. Talking about every political head and different embassies before it goes public. Mr. Gongra, this is your area of expertise. Educate us here on how these things are supposed to work.
All right. So here what I will say first to begin with. Let me be the first to admit that I followed the election from different perspectives because I'm campaigning for Councillor Tiawanse Gonglo. And my campaign is involved in publicity and all that stuff. But as far as the electoral process, the election itself, the election is a process. It's not an event. So there's a legal process. It's the management process is under the laws of Liberia. First caution would be if any participant, political parties, basically, if anyone there is not satisfied with the process or have any fear, reasonable fear that there might be infraction in the process, the way to go is to go to the Supreme Court and seek redress. That is the first thing you do. Issuing threat does not change the process. Okay? That's the first thing you do. When people start to issue threat and don't follow the established legal procedure, then they don't believe in what they're saying. Because if they actually do have evidence and they believe in it, the first thing to do is to go to court. Okay, because they would then adduce the evidence, say this has not been done, this is no. But here is what I will say. Giving political parties the list of registered voters is something that usually election commission can work very carefully on that, because they have people personal information also in that database, and you don't know how maybe some unscrupulous person may use the people birth date and all of that is also collected also, because when you go register, so it has to be taken eye on what of you. But from what I'm getting from you, if the exhibition, what you talk about is actually called exhibition. If the exhibition has taken place where at each registration center, those who register names are posted on the bulletin or on the wall, and people are allowed to go and inspect whether their names are there, spelled correctly, and what have you. If that has happened, then as far as not giving the list or the database to political party, I see that as less of an issue as opposed to not displaying the list. If they are displayed the list to the public, then this one is less of an issue, because what political parties do with that database is to take that database, pull it in, and start to pursue, in some instances, those registrants in the various community. Oh, this person is registered. That this person, let's contact this person to vote for. I mean, they use that as campaign tools. That's one of the things they do to have direct access to the registered voters. Okay. Let me decide. They will give it maybe at some point, but I don't think it's something that is so dangerous to undermine the credibility of the process. What is critical is to display the exhibition. If that has happened, then I will be okay with it. This one can be done anytime.
Thank you very much. Mr. Elvis Morris, as you can see, I want to quote the U.S., the former U.S. ambassador, Mr. McCarthy.
Let me add this. Let me
Yes.
add. Let me end on this. I hear you say that Deviator Brown, the chairperson of the Elections Commission, has also said she is going to give Liberian names to foreign mission. Is that really true? Did she say?
No, what she said she will do the electronic, like those who requested for it, that she would give it to the stakeholders, and she named party chairs and all of that. It was the food from the protest that they not only want that the information be given to the party chair, but it should be given to all the stakeholders, including the embassies. So, like you said, I don't know whether that's part of the law, but that was the agreement.
No foreign mission, absolutely no foreign mission, under any other circumstance, should be given access to our database in such a manner. We are a sovereign nation. No, I've been election observer in Kenya. I worked for election in East Timor for the United Nations. I was UN electoral officer. No foreign. When you are observer, you are observer. That's all your role is. You don't interfere with the process. Observer is nothing but observer. When I work in Kenya, we observe. We make.
Mr. Gongo, let other people go. We're operating on time.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah,
Mr. Gongo,
so
go ahead.
the Elections Commission should not be intimidated to topple themselves into, taking action that are retrogressive, basically, against the interests of the country. They should not do that.
Thank you.
We never give our names to foreigners.
Mr. Morris, the former U.S. Ambassador McCarthy made the same statement that I'm about to make verbatim. He said, we spend a lot of money and resources on training folks in Liberia to be professional, talking to journalists and people in the media, to be professional, to be ethical, to have a standard. He said instead, they sit in their comfort zone in the United States, utilizing our First Amendment right to undermine and destabilize their own country. This is what the ambassador said. He said they sit there, and then when they are questioned legally, then they tell you they do not have the evidence, but it is their belief. This is what the ambassador said. Now, when you hear someone like Ms. Kamara here, who is not addressing the issue, but attempting to undermine, to say the lady she was indicted. We all know indictment in this country is just anybody can indict anybody. It's an accusation. It means absolutely nothing. They went to court. The Supreme Court said the party that brought the case against David Adobra had no standing. That means I cannot do this. So, Mr. Morris here,
Mr.
The opposition trying to do, knowing they're going to lose, they're trying to undermine the credibility of our institution.
Right. And in this situation, this is the time I wish we had somebody like Charles Walker Bromsky. And I'm saying this in response to Mr. Gongo. Mr. Gongo, you know I like your business. I respect you on this platform. But let me just push back on you a little bit. Charles Walker Bromsky is a man who is current to the laws of our republic. He would have used every legal instrument at his disposal, to try to litigate this case and get the desired outcome for his political party. This is why I'm a little disappointed in Councilor Gongo, a man who is well versed in the laws of the country. Perhaps he's too busy campaigning rather than, using his legal wits to fight on behalf of his political institutions. If Deviator Brown Lasana is not doing the right thing, somebody like Councilor Gongo, who is very well respected as a lawyer, as an advocate lawyer, at that, should have been in the courts and challenging, everything that she, is doing or perceived to be doing wrong. So I'm disappointed that he hasn't done that.
Mr. Morris, Mr.
Gongo, but if I may ask Evan,
1 minute, I'll come to you. But Mr. Elvis, let me push back. What happens if Mr. Gongo notices that there is no law broken at this point? Hold on to that
Well,
question.
my understanding.
Hold on, Eric. I want you to hold on to that question. Yeah, Mr. Gonglo, ask your question so he can answer both of them.
I think I was coming on similar line. Whether Councillor Gonglo has made press statement to that effect, for which he is disappointed for not taking advantage of the law. Has he spoken publicly about what United Party people have threatened? Has he joined the United Party?
You want me to do a dialogue?
No,
Right. I'll make my point and then we can move forward from there. The point I'm just trying to make here is I would say the same thing for Cummings. Cummings running mate is a litigious, a lawyer, Councilor Brumskin, who many people think is, has taken after her father's footsteps. Most campaigns should have a legal team, and your legal team are there to watch the legal process of the campaign and challenge it whenever they feel like they're being, the laws are not being followed. So when people are complaining about the voter rolls not being published because it's supposed to be published within 30 days to the elections, and we're well, below that day. I think we're like 18 days to the election. So it wasn't published, and that's a violation of the national election laws. So those who are, experts in the law should have challenged that. And that's why I'm calling Councillor Gonglo. I'm calling Chancellor Councillor Brumskin. Cummings has, people like Aloysius Stowe, who is on his campaign team. The Unity Party, I'm sure they have some very seasoned lawyers as well. Nobody is making any sound. But what they're doing effectively is to make this threat or to try to bring the election commission into disrepute. So that if they lose this election, they will say, see, this wasn't done. That wasn't done. This wasn't done. This election was rigged the whole time. And that's the issue that I have. And that's why I think if Charles Brumskin was alive, he would have used his legal wits to go after the National Election Commission. But also, the national legislature is not in session. They're all campaigning for re-election bids. Who's going to hold the National Election Commission, to book? Can they go to the legislature and be asked questions about what's going on with the voter roll? Of course not. So nobody is watching the asylum. The National Election Commission is not a part of this government. They're an autonomous body. So the government of Liberia cannot hold them accountable. Not the government, but the executive branch cannot hold them accountable. The national legislature is supposed to hold them accountable, but they're nowhere to be found. So these political parties got to take the bull by the horn, and really try to fight for their rights. If not, they shouldn't crowd foul if the election goes to go against. I'll leave it there.
But
Mr. Eastman,
I know you want to go to Eastman. Before you go, if I can just add to this for 30 seconds. The thing is, Elvis, you have laws, then you have schedule of. So that does not confuse or telescope two different things into one. You have election laws and you have schedule of implementation or schedule of activities, right? Schedule activities are not law. It's not fixed. It's not fixed. So the laws are there. The Election Commission may come on schedule and say, in order to bring meaning to this law, these are the schedule will follow. So that schedule activity is not law.
So it's optional then, Mr. Gonglo. They don't have to do it. It's up to them if they want to do it or not. The schedules.
Schedule activity is actually just the project implementation activity. Some can lag behind and some can come before. Let's be aware of that. Because I'm checking the election laws here, where you're talking about, even voter exhibition. They have voter registration. Registration as a right is by law. It's in the law. But in terms of exhibition of voter roll and what have you, those are scheduled implementation. They are not by law. There is no law that say you must display the names of the people at each center, or you must give it to political parties. No, it's scheduled implementation. Those are operational issues. Okay? Let us not telescope the two into one. They are separate and distinct.
Excellent. And this is why I've been behind you all along to be on here, because
He's talking for you now. So
you are objective most of the time. Mr. Eastman, here we are. This is why when we are talking, for those of us who are into statistics and all of that, social statistics for me, when you talk from the top of your head, you wind up looking like a fool. And this is why when you look at people who are looking at the actual numbers and they display those numbers, then in social science, there's something we call the interpretation of the numbers or the results or the issue. For instance, somebody say 30% of the people voted against the president. Okay, that's all you see, 30%. But you're not seeing who are the 30%, who they voted for, how they voted, why they didn't vote, all of those things. So, and we see the opposition here with a sustained effort to undermine our institutions in Liberia. You are muted.
Okay. What was the last question?
The thing is, the sustained effort by the opposition to undermine the efforts of our institution in Liberia as stipulated by the former ambassador to Liberia.
What, you know, what catching my eye is that I'm reading the regulations regarding the voter roll and registration. One of the in Article 16.7, it says no final registration roll may be altered within 30 days prior to an election, except upon order of the Supreme Court. So if you cannot alter you cannot contest or say anything about the final voter registration rule, and you're 14 days maybe away from the election, that raises concern. And this is why I was saying in the beginning, there is blame on the NEC for what they've done. They haven't given us a real reason. They should be very, very transparent of what they're doing. It's just clouding the whole election process, because if that is stipulated in their regulations, that means that final rule should have been put out 30 days, at least 30 days before the election. So it is alarming, and it gives reason for concern. But as it is today, by law, there's nothing can be done to it. But I guess we just have to wait until they release it now, whenever they do decide to release it. Again, I would say that this doesn't fall on the executive, except that the people who he appoints, he has to hold them in check. They have to perform their duty without falter, or they have to be removed. And that's the only thing I see that has been plaguing this administration. Many of the lieutenants.
Let me push back.
Okay.
These names were given to the legislative branches, I guess the Senate, to vet these people, and they confirmed that the president only recommended that the Senate did their job.
Okay.
They vetted these people and confirmed them.
Yeah.
These people were credible. They were the right kinds of folks. So who do you blame? Are you blaming the president?
Okay. Very good. It's like this, and I'm glad you brought it up, Jerome, because you have been a man who has run international organizations. Yes, we can appoint you to the board, can vet you. You have the requisite education. You have the requisite job experience. And you have the requisite integrity that they think that you can perform the job. That doesn't mean that when you're performing the job, we will not also grade you. And even though we have recommended and approved of your appointment, if you're not performing the job as we expected, then we will have to take whatever actions necessary. But we cannot sit back because somebody has been approved and they're not doing a good job, we cannot sit back and let them continue not doing a good job. We still have to hold them accountable. And every 6 months, in many corporations, every 6 months you are evaluated, your performance. You go to a performance evaluation. So if you're trending in the wrong way, you already know. So by the end of the year,
but Jimmy, you talk about corporate style management here. When you're talking about autonomous agency that is tenure, people that are tenure, president cannot fire them. And you know that too. These people are an autonomous agency. The president cannot go in there, disagree with you, and say, you know what? Okay, you are out of here. I'm bringing people in that can do exactly what I'm. Isn't this what we are having around, Mr. Kamara?
Yeah.
Last month, when the Elections Commission admonished everybody to go to their places of registration and to verify their information. The information is correct. If you lost your voting card, they give you 10 days to go and apply for a replacement. I think it was $5 or $10 for one of those. And we all were out here telling folks. In fact, the joke was, now we're going to know who were trucked, because in Bassa we heard that there were many people that were trucked in Buchanan, and now we are saying those people you are trucked now have to go back to Bassa with their truckload to make sure those names are correct and everything. If there's any error, it is a recipe for disaster, because those people, when they go back to vote and their information is not correct, now they are going to be told that you are not eligible to vote, and they will say they deny me my franchise. And we had that argument, Mr. Kamara. I know you feel general at this point, and you look for any means to say the election was rigged. Tell me, did you and your folks verify all the names in Sierra Leone that came to vote? Were the name correct, their birth date? Do you do all of those things that the Election Commission asks of you?
You know, we'll clean some things out here. Clean some things right up there, really good. Indictment, according to you, means nothing, just an allegation. But you are sitting on this radio, on this network. When it comes to the Stanton Witherspoon case, you are inside. In fact, you left your job, you left your young baby to go to court to see Stanton Witherspoon go to jail. When it comes to your election commissioner chairman, they just not nothing. Indictment doesn't mean. But again,
let me correct you.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
No, I can't let you go further. The man pled guilty. He
but
pled guilty, so he's done. That was not an allegation.
I'm saying before the man even pled guilty, you are on this man 24/7. In fact, that was the reason why you even went to the court. But here's the thing. I want to say, Mr. Eastman is just. You say you brought Gongolo here to educate, but Mr. Ismail is the one educating. Gongolo is misleading. Just because it's not written in the Constitution doesn't mean when it's written in the National Elections Commission, a regulation is not enforceable by law. That's not what it means. If you look on the book, it's written there that by 30 days to election, the final result should be up. And it clearly said here that you can't change anything within those 30 days. That means it exists. You have to put it up. Let's establish that. But I have a question you're asking about. You're trying to put something in my mouth to respond to. I will not waste my time on it. What I will tell you here is, it is clear, very clear, that the competition is between George Weah and Joseph Boakai. For you to think that I'm jury, that I'm losing election, when I actually know what's going on grounds. In terms of numbers, in terms of strategy, in terms of stocks, I already know. Go to Harvest. Let me answer your question.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of On Point. Please share this show. Get involved. I'm looking at the comments here. I want to say Stanley, welcome. Obviously, Sam Wallow, Dr. Edison Pajibo, thank you very much for tuning in. These are folks who tune in all the time. Actual Factual, you are here as always. Please have the comments coming. Mavinia Wallace, thank you very much for tuning in. Esther Clark Fredericks, thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate you being here and following. We're following the comments here. Cristiano King, thank you very much. So people are following I mean, this election is very interesting. Everybody have interest in it and they have an opinion. And come the 11th of October, we will know whether Liberia will blow up, whether the country will blow up, including killing everybody, because I guess Joseph Boakai has a nuclear bomb. He's going to blow up the country. The country will end. Since Joseph Boakai lives in Liberia, and he's going to blow the country up, that's a suicide. Joseph Boakai is a suicide bomber.
Yeah, Mr. Gayman, before you go on, I suggest we play the excerpt so
Thank you.
everybody can hear it from verbatim what Mr. Buckeye said.
Please
So
do.
no one can say that, it was your interpretation or my interpretation. Let's hear exactly what he said and make a judgment from that.
Let's do it.
All right.
Like that. That's why you have to protect it. If they think they will see this election, you will not allow it. Because if you do it, that's the end of this country. And we're not going to allow that to happen.
Okay. Should I play it again?
Mr. Kamara, you got a hearing aid on? You want? Yeah, play it again for Kamara because he was turning his face.
The thing was too clear. And I think difficult to understand. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Kamara,
Yeah.
I will leave.
That's why you have to protect it. If they think they will see this election, you will not allow it. Because if you do it, that's the end of this country. And we're not going to.
Because if you do it, that is the end of this country.
Let me explain that.
Go ahead. No, I don't know if that your turn or who.
That's my turn. I'm coming to me.
No, you gotta keep for you, Mr. Kamara. It's my turn.
I just want to make a suggestion. If Jimmy can also play the Prince Johnson.
Oh, we're talking about Buckeye. We're not talking about Prince Johnson.
There is a trend here coming from the Unity Party Alliance. So if we have the Johnson statement, we play that along with the Buckeye statement to establish an official.
We're not discussing Prince Johnson. We're discussing Joseph Buckeye statement.
I think you added there.
Mr. Eastman, if we have that clip, we can play. I also send
I know.
I also send you a clip from Chief Siri Allen. Chief Siri Allen also. I don't know if you guys listen to it. I send it to everybody. If you listen to Chief Siri,
I heard that clip. Yeah.
Okay. Chief Siri Allen responded to the Prince Johnson, the opposition, that are warmongering. But why Mr. Eastman is looking for either one of those clips?
Mr. Gayman, let me respond.
Have we changed the topic all of a sudden? Now it's about Prince Johnson now?
No, 1 minute.
Let me respond. Let me respond. Yes, I just want to say this to Mr. Gongo. I think maybe since your brother's a lawyer, I'm sure you probably know some legal terms. But there's an idiom, a legal idiom. It says if you can't argue the law, argue the process. And in this case, the political parties can argue the process, like Mr. Kamara was saying. A regulation is there to regulate. And in regulations, you have to abide by certain in order to regulate an institution like the NEC, they have to abide by certain regulations. That's why it was put in their charter. So it is enforceable, like Mr. Kamara said. I'm not a legal expert on that part of it than I do, but it is enforceable. So when political parties are being lazy legally, they shouldn't use that as an excuse to then go to the national elections or go to the Supreme Court after the fact. That would be disingenuous. Do it while the process is ongoing. Argue the process. If not, you're doing it to yourself. And then, I don't know if we're starting the issues with Joseph Boyka and Prince Johnson comments, but if not, I'll turn it back to you, and then you can, go ahead and moderate the show as you please.
Listen, because Elvis mentioned my name, if I can just respond.
Yeah, go ahead.
Elvis, this is the point I made in my opening statement, that election is based on laws. It's a process based on law. So when participants are not satisfied with any process, the best course is to go to the Supreme Court. Or, in fact, the process is file your complaint to the Board of Commissioners. That Board of Commissioners, this is what the regulations say. You are in violation of the law against the Board of Commissioners. The rule requires that the Board of Commissioners cannot rule against herself. They may reject or they may say something. You then move to the Supreme Court. Even going to the legislature, like you talk about, all of them being out there on campaigning, it's just the legislature is a political forum. They can go there and even grandstand and say anything they want to say. There is no law that will hold them. It's only to expose.
They can withhold fundings from the National Election Commission. You know that, right?
But if you hold,
Right. So they have some power over the purse, over the National Elections Commission.
here is a danger now. Even when you withhold the funding, then you run into constitutional crisis. You know, so they're not going to do that. But the best is go to the Supreme Court, right? So to even issue threat because you are not satisfied because certain thing is not done, either you don't believe that that is actually an infraction of the process, that's why you're issuing threats. But if you believe that what you say is a violation of the procedure, go to the Board of Commissioners and then to the Supreme Court.
Great.
So you no, 1 second, Mr. Gayman. So you as the Gongla Chancellor Gongla spokesperson, you don't think that's a violation? It doesn't matter if they release the voter rolls before, after the 30 days expire. You don't think that's a violation? Your campaign or your brother's campaign don't think that's a violation?
I can speak for the campaign. I can speak for myself on the logic here. You cannot determine as a participant. You can't make a judgment and say, I'm being violated or there is a violation. The code determines a violation. You can file a complaint for your perspective as a participant against the Board of Commissioners. To the Board of Commissioners, under the law, they are required to hear complaint against themselves. Okay? You take your complaint to the Board of Commissioners. They will hear it. They will be represented by they have a whole legal department, the Elections Commission. They will be represented by that legal department, and your party will have a legal representative.
Mr. Gilman.
So let's get you on the record, Mr. Gonglo. After these elections, if the Unity Party is saying that one of the things that happened that was wrong in these elections was the NEC not printing out the voter registration, the rolls before, after the 30 days expire, you don't think that will be an issue? So they shouldn't even mention it after these elections if they lose it. Let's get you on the record today.
That would be nonsense.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. I just want to get that point.
Means they have failed to take advantage of the law. In 2020, they run the by-election in Lofa. When Unity Party came out with 17 counts of infractions, while Galapa Kotma, my own comrade, we slept together in TH50 setting together. Why he did not win against another big brother, Joseph Pato, Unity Party here press conference, Joseph Boaka himself, they listed 17 counts of violations. What did they do? They did not pursue the complaint at the Board of Commissioners. They did not go to the Supreme Court. So that was not a violation.
Okay.
They just made noise.
Mr. Kamara, I disagree with you. I want to hear how you feel about that.
Great. Listen, when we're talking about violations and when we talk about laws and we talk about codes of ethics, when we talk about regulations, when we're talking about dual procedures, they are totally different from when you're breaking the law. So they're different. But when we go to the next one here, why Mr. Eastman is looking, I will play the response from Chief Siri Allen. Let's listen very closely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Partisans of the Coalition for Democratic Change. Greetings also to all well-in Liberians, peaceful.
Bring it closer.
This country. We have been listening out for the last few days. We've been listening to, let's say, former General Prince Johnson trying to make some intimidating and beating war drums. We want to make it very clear to Senator Prince Johnson that he's no lord and master in this country. No one is intimidated by his sentimental and threatening statements. He cannot threaten a duly elected government, a legitimate national government, and Senator here trying to intimidate people. Nobody will submit to Prince Johnson. He's nobody. He should respect himself, otherwise we're going to disrespect him. He should watch himself. Nobody is scared of in this country, and he should not bring no war drum and start beating unnecessarily in this country. We are not interested in violence. We are interested in going through a democratic process. If he does not respect the democratic process that made him senator and change his life, he should respect God that he claimed to serve. They're not threatening the people of Liberia here every day war. If we don't win, there will be war. Arabs, who in the hell is he to talk about Arab Spring or intimidate anybody. Those who know Senator Prince Johnson, please warn that man that he should respect his age as an elderly citizen in this country. If he wants to be recognized and respected, he must respect himself. Nobody. You cannot destroy the peace that we are enjoying in this country simply because of your own personal desire and your ego. I'm certain that the people of Nimba do not listen to such callous and reckless statements that are made by him. And I want to make it clear, sound it out to all our partisans and all citizens of this country. Do not listen to any junk of that nature that's being propagated by Senator Prince Johnson. The people of Nimba County do not follow him. They are not going to follow him down a slippery road. They have built their county, is developed with industries, factories, processing plants, and all those things are in Nimba. People are living a peaceful life and enjoying themselves and trying to build their future. He should not come and destroy it because he thinks that people will capitulate when he begins to make statements. He's a former general, a failed general. He did not succeed in no military thing. I mean, he has to watch himself.
Okay, now we already heard it before.
We respect the Farmington Agreement that was signed between and among us, and those who do not respect it, then they should get out of the democratic process. We want to proceed. If he got a political drum to beat, let him beat it. If he has any positive comment to make about the democratic process or admonishment to our citizens, he should do that and start threatening people. Nobody's going to fall for that. And they got men in this country. We are men in this country. We cannot be intimidated by nobody. So he must watch himself, and nobody should pay attention to that callous, reckless old man who has nothing decent to say but war. We want to kind of warning to him. We continue to deal with the political process and continue to go on and campaign vigorously in all counties to make sure that the Coalition for Democratic Change win another 6-year term. Like it or not, we are on top of it, and we're going to continue to push forward positively and democratically. No intimidation. We are not threatened by him. He should go and sit down somewhere and respect himself and his family. God bless you. Chief Siri A. Allen.
So, Mr. Eastman, Mr. Kamara, this comes to our next topic. And I'm going to read to you on the 21st. It says here, from his press corps that went with him to Wapulu, Front Page Africa has obtained a video of the stand-up bearer of the Unity Party during one of his campaign rallies where he warned that it would be the end of Liberia should the ruling CDC rig the October 10 election. Then, prior to that, on the 21st, Front Page Africa, on one of his campaign swings, Mr. Joseph Boakai said the opposition Unity Party stand-up bearer Joseph Boakai had told local journalists in Wapulu County that he had explicit confidence in the National Elections Commission to perform the task that they have been assigned. Liberia Joseph Boakai expressed confidence in the Elections Commission. In an interview with a reporter, he said, the 7 commissioners of the NDC took an oath to serve their country, and I have confidence that they will do so honorably. They too are Liberians who want to see a better society. They have a duty to fulfill, and I trust they will do it. 24 hours, barely 48 hours later, Joseph Boakai flipped from having confidence to blowing up the country.
That's why you have to protect it. If they think they will see this election, you will not allow it. Because if you do it, that's the end of this country. And we're not going to allow that to happen.
So, Mr. Eastman, 48 hours before Mr. Wapulu, I mean, Mr. Boyka, in the public forum in Wapulu, where everybody was present, he's praising the Elections Commission. He had full confidence in the Elections Commission, and that they too are Liberians that would like to see their country move forward. And he thinks they will do what they're supposed to do. He flip-flopped 24 hours, 48 hours later, and he is beating war drum, threatening that if they steal the election, he said the people should protect it. And if they try or attempt to steal the election, that would be the end of the Republic of Liberia, the country. Mr. Eastman, this doesn't sound like the man that they say he has wisdom, he has experience. Age is on his side. People say he doesn't speak much. He's very measured. Everything he says, he thinks about it, he thinks through it. And here we are, Honorable Boyka is saying the country will come to an end. Your take on this?
Very good. This comes especially after Senator Prince Johnson made his threats, and a Unity Party spokesman said that Prince Johnson had the right to make those statements. This is very concerning because here's the reason why, and all those out in focus on Liberia. Let me tell you why this is wrong. In peaceful countries, in democratic countries, there have been allegations of fraud, allegations of election rigging that have taken place. But the resolve of those people is not to end the country, is not to go to war. They find a way to resolve their problem in a peaceful manner, where you do not destroy the state, where you do not destroy law and order, where you create a state of anarchy and chaos rules. They have the Supreme Court set up for these things. And if you're still not satisfied with the Supreme Court decision, you still do not take arms up for an election. That is not how mature states conduct themselves. This is why our country is destroyed today. Had we gone the peaceful way of removing or impeaching a president you are not satisfied with, or a government you are not satisfied, we will not be as backwards as we are today. And today, after 14 long years of civil unrest and turmoil, after the country is still not restored pre-war days, as we still don't have running water and electricity, and our kids cannot even get a decent education, no health care in the country. We're just trying to rebuild. And we are hearing people saying they are ready to begin to destroy the country for the sake of an election. In this United States where we find ourselves, there was some serious controversial over the Miami voting process during the Al Gore and Bush election. They had already even declared, some stations have declared Al Gore the winner in Miami, thereby giving him the entire presidential election. Overnight, the results came back that George Bush had won Florida. And coincidentally, it was George Bush's brother who was at the time the sitting governor of Florida. It was a very, very controversial issue. But the people in charge, the Democratic Party, including Gore, said, we're not going to go to war because of one election. That election, that tenure will come and pass. And we're not going to destroy our country for that one election. This is the kind of maturity we need if we're going to practice democracy. I'm a little bit concerned that even that is outside freedom of speech. Those are direct threats. I don't know if freedom of speech is protected in that sense. I haven't seen any security comments after the VP made his speech, but this is threatening our peace and security. After there have already been allegations that there will be rigging, now there's threats of war. These guys are setting the stage to plunge us in turmoil. None of us should take this for granted because the stage is being set.
Thank you. Mr. Kamara, I know while we were going through the evidence, you walk away. Here we are. We have.
I already got the whole thing.
Listen. We are talking about.
Who made that statement that you posted up on the screen?
I don't know who posted this.
Not Mr. CEO, Mr. Ja.
Mr. Ja, if you put that, you gotta put the order.
Who interpreting Joseph Boyka's word for us here?
It has to be attributed to somebody.
Yeah, I don't see who made a statement.
Yeah, but who put this up?
I'm guessing it's somebody from the back who tried to interpret Joseph Boyka's statement for us.
I can share with this platform more of these statements.
Okay, can I speak now? I'm not trying to speak or no. My God is showing.
Listen, I'm coming because somebody posted something that is blocking everybody here, and I'm trying to find the statement. Mr. Kamara, I'm saying this because 2020, January 6th in this country, the main character in a movie, I call it movie, Donald Trump.
You're making me lose all of my.
No, listen.
We're going back to movie now. Go ahead.
I'm not responsible for your short-term.
Go ahead, explain the movie. Tell me about the movie.
Now listen. The gentleman says the only way I can lose this election is when it's rigged. That was Donald Trump. He said, for me to lose to Joe Biden, it has to be rigged. And he told them, he said, the Proud Boys, stand back. He says, basically, that.
Yeah, stand by.
Stand by. And he set the stage that when he loses the election, that these people should storm the Capitol. And they did. What was his excuse? I only said it, but hey, if they took it on their own to do it, it's on them. Now we are seeing Mr. Joseph Boyka saying, when I lose this election, it will be rigged. The election will be only fair when I win. If anybody else wins, it will be rigged, and the elections, this country will go basically be burned or will be blown up. The country will end. We know Joseph Boyka will be in his late 80s.
Okay, but let me talk about.
We know he cannot go to war. We know.
Please invite Manaswa Quality on the show. They can't defend that statement that you make.
What's up with Soda?
See, you keep interrupting. We know Joseph Boyka cannot go to war. He's an old man. But people who listen to him, who are loyal to him, can actually take upon what he says and act upon it. Mr. Kamara, go ahead.
Thank God. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Okay. For those of you here who read about the Arab Spring, do you know about the Arab Spring? What happened at the Arab Spring?
Yes, the guy who started the Arabs who burned himself to death.
Okay.
They had dictators in power. Dictators who been in power for many years.
Mr. Evan Morris, the man burned himself to death. Is Joseph Boyka ready to burn himself to death to prove a point?
I can go ahead now.
No, but if you bring on the Arab Spring, the starting of the Arab Spring.
George Weah is not Muammar Gaddafi or Mohammed al-Mubarak. It's not those people.
Mr. Morris, if you remember the Arab Spring, it started from one man setting himself on fire and killing himself. That was the start.
Tahrir Square, I think, in Egypt.
Is Joseph Boyka ready to start an Arab Spring by burning himself to death?
Let Elliot tell. You keep interrupting him.
Mr. Ja, leave us alone. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The voice of God.
Okay, thank you. So when Prince Johnson spoke, he talked about the Arab Spring. We know the history of the Arab Spring. It was not war against Tunisia. It was a strike. It was somebody demonstrating. So Prince Johnson said the whole long thing. What you guys do is that Prince Johnson is going to the bush and bringing 300 men to attack the country. That was your understanding. Let's go to the Joseph Boakai thing right here. If you listen to Joseph Boakai, I know all of you guys where you will come from when Joseph Boakai speak. So I'm not surprised. That's why it's not bothering me. That's why my ear is locked from listening to all the audios. Okay? The thing is, Joseph Boakai has said on numerous occasions that if the Liberian people make mistake and George will be re-elected, it will be the end of this country. What does that mean? In 6 years, George Weah has ran this country down where it has lost every international respect. It has never been able to have any bilateral or multilateral connections. Companies that were existing before George Weah came to power, these companies are leaving. That's why the honorable man said we would not allow, they think they were cheap, but we will not allow, underline, we will not allow, because if they do, it will be the end of this country. He was not telling you about war. He has been re-emphasizing that if George will get another 6th term, it's the end of Liberia.
No, that's not what he says. He said we will not allow them to rig this election. He was talking about rigging the election.
I'm still speaking of my people.
Sorry, Mr. Kamar, go ahead.
Okay. So I mean, I'm sitting with 4 citizens. I can understand that. But the thing is, when somebody make a whole speech and you just take one thing from inside, you got Mr. Ismail giving you a whole moral speech here. He did not analyze the entire speech, the momentum that was in the speech, whether he was driven by the crowd and he mistakenly spoke. You know, none of those from the guy who is neutral and in the middle, none of those ideas come to him to analyze that speech. He took one thing from there, the end of Liberia. So he defined the end of Liberia to me. Joseph Boakai is then coming for a war in Liberia. That is shameful. Thank you.
Mr. Kamara, let me push back on this real quick. You said companies are leaving Liberia. Can you name 4 or 5 companies that left Liberia?
Oh, first of all, China Union cut down.
No. You said left Liberia. We're not talking about.
But when you cut down, you
no.
Yeah, but we're not.
This is why you guys and I usually have problems.
First of all, you didn't even let me continue.
When you make a declarative statement, you have to have facts to back them up.
But let me
tell me the companies that left Liberia.
Hey man, let me speak first. All right, and I'm surprised that you're from Grand Bassa and I know that the largest company in Grand Bassa County under the Ellen Johnson administration left. You don't know that. You also listen.
Call the name of the company.
Listen. But if you keep doing this, you keep taking me off. How would I even put my something together? You see, this is deliberate. It is. You want to see. This is focused on Liberia. This is the most reputable internet program, news program here. You want to take the On Point and turn it into a CDC show to campaign for the CDC. And some of us are here to push back that is not going to happen. We will keep the repertoire of focus on Liberia. It is not a hidden secret.
Great.
It is not a hidden secret that even a 5-year-old, that even a 5-year-old in Liberia, China Union left.
I will help you. Golden Beryllium left.
There you go. But they're not supposed to know these things. Leave? Oh, you don't know these things?
No, but
even in Maryland today.
Okay, listen to this, Mr. Kamara.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gonglo, I think you listen to Siri Allen, you listen to Prince Johnson, you listen to Mr. Honorable Boakai about the destruction of the country if they lose, if he loses. There's only, as far as he is concerned, there's only one outcome. Only one acceptable outcome. That's when Joseph Boakai wins. If anybody else wins, the country is going to be destroyed, according to him and Prince.
Thank you for the question. Just before I comment on that, the last question you pushed, Mr. Kamara, when he made allegation, the claim, as you say, about company leaving Liberia. I mean, that put this in context. Let's look at the central bank data. Under the UP second term, towards the end of, I was working in Liberia at the Ministry of Finance as the director for one of the World Bank projects. So, and was part of that economic reform project. So we sat in different forums and were part of looking at the different economic issues. Okay, even though I was held in the capacity building component of the project, but it also gave me an opportunity to interact with other heads of different components of the project because of the big countrywide project. So the central bank data, the government of Liberia, the UP government, the economy was actually in sharp decline.
You want to open the line? Let callers call in today, please.
They were actually borrowing money from the reserve. They were actually borrowing money from the central bank. Okay, in fact, at the end of 2017, the government had taken more than $800 million, in loan. They were just shy of reaching $1 billion. Okay, so let's put that clear. When you say company leaving, let's go back to the Leti audit. The governor of Liberia, through Leti, which is the Liberia Extractive, actually commissioned an audit, and they brought in an international, the most leading institution to audit the natural resource concession contract under the UP government. Out of the 68 concessions granted, only 2 met the minimum requirement of the laws of Liberia. 66 were bogus and did not meet, according to that report, did not meet the minimum requirement of the law. So I served in the first term of that government. I was part of some of the negotiation.
Look, Mr. Gayman, can I come in 1 minute?
No, please don't interrupt him, Mr. Kamara. Be respectful, please.
You guys just messing up this show. You ask something about something else, they may go to Google's agreement, National Bank.
Mr. Kamara, this is why we talk about.
When you say these things, there is a context you must.
Oh man,
Mr. Gonglo, when
everything just started falling down on
there is no document that use the word Booker. You say it written in a document.
Yes.
They said the document here that says it says Booker agreement.
It did not meet the minimum standard. What means it was subpar.
That's all it said. Doesn't mean we're boogers. No document said that.
So why a man was?
It's not every document that means 100% of what you call it.
Many of these concessions that they gave were fly-by-night concessions. That's why they didn't stay. They just used the country as a station ground to probably get some stuff.
I wonder whether he's supporting CDC or he's supporting.
So the Golden Verona, I don't know whenever say the Golden Verona has left.
Beryllium.
Have they left? Are you sure about that?
I think they left in 2017, right before we came to power, or right after
they left right after we came to power.
No, they are in Liberia.
Have they changed their name to they went to, I think, Maryland, right? They were in Maryland.
They are in the southeast. They got like
I think they've changed their name. They have a different nomenclature. They changed their name.
But that company, that group is from Indonesia. They stay there because I talk to people who have oil palm, and Jeremiah Kun is one of the largest owner of.
I'll be right back.
Okay, so these are facts I know. Okay, so I think they are still there. I think they are still up.
I'm looking at the website. They are in Liberia.
They are in Liberia, actually. The one you may be talking about is Equatorial Biofuel. That was in Buchanan. They were dealing with the rubber trees and what have you. That was one of the groups that I don't even want to go, because this discussion is not about that. Because I know how they came to Liberia through some politically connected people. And once they came, they made that money, they left. Okay? I mean, it had nothing to do with any other government. They used Liberia as a conduit to get some wood chips and ship to Europe and make money, and that's all they did. Okay? So I just wanted to put this in context when Mr. Kamara is saying that, and my argument has been that the CDC and the Unity Party have a governing records that we should judge them by. They been in power. We're seeing that, in my view, they are not good managers of the state revenue. That's why I believe the voters must reject them, the UP and the CDC. They must reject them because they are not good managers of the state resources. So then I'll come to this threat. Let's put this threat in context. There is a trend. Rwanda did not happen one day. Rwanda was a slow motion. There were different inflammatory statements being made on radio, and people did not catch it until the crash of the airline and everything exploded. Okay? Mo Ali was the first to make an inflammatory statement calling for basically violence, outright violence. Councillor Gonglo issued a statement on a Friday calling on Joe Barker to condemn Mo Ali and dissociate himself from the statement because he's a spokesman of Joe Barker. The next day, Joe Barker held a press conference and declared support for Mo Ali's statement. That's one stage. Few weeks later, Prince Johnson made a same statement. Also, other political actors condemned Prince Johnson and called on the Unity Party to distance themselves from Prince Johnson. On Thursday, on Tough Talking Thursday, we debated that issue. Friday, Joe Barker made the same statement. In fact, he went one step. Prince Johnson was even moderate, in my view. But Joe Barker outrightly called for the destruction of Liberia. Okay? Part of the reason why I have a fear is Barker represents a state capture. The corrupt, the thieves, and the murderers have captured Barker. And they see it now as a train, a conduit for them to have access to national leadership and wealth. So they are desperate. That so-called rescue mission is a mission of desperados. And we must fear them. They represent, for me, in my view, an existential threat to Liberia as we see it today. We must reject them. Because well-meaning Liberians should unite on this. Should seize this opportunity to call Barker so-called rescue train for what it is. They are a disaster, a dangerous configuration of thieves and murderers.
Excellent point, Mr. Gomez.
Yeah, but I said, Mr. Gayman. Mr. Gayman.
Go ahead.
Yes, because I waited patiently. My name was mentioned, and I see a lot of people online wondering. And I will tell them why. I've been through a couple of changes of government in our country. I remember when Talbot was dethroned. I was part of the youth group, and I used to hear all kinds of things, and they figured that Talbot administration was the worst thing, and that we needed to change it. And that led to the coup in 1980. And some of my friends would tell me, say that our revolution was kidnapped or was aborted. Well, when you start agitating, anything can happen. So you should expect anything to happen. Then later on, when Joe became president, however he might have done it, the next thing I said, no, Monkey needs to come down. He needs to come down. The next thing we know, we have 14 years of war. So when I see people calling for changes, it's not that I don't believe a change is necessary. But I know that we go about it the wrong way, we get the wrong results. So it's not that I don't know that things are wrong and some things need to be changed. My fear is that when we don't go about it in the right way, or the change we're calling for is not the appropriate change, is much of the same thing that may happen, then I'm concerned. If you want change, you want constructive change, you want change for the better. You're not hoping, I hope this man will do better. You do not know. You have to use a critical analysis. Now, I know if somebody like Gongo go there, he would definitely make law and order primary. I know if Cummings go there, he would make the private sector primary, even Simeon. But I don't have that much confidence in past failed governments. Just like Mr. Gongo said, I've seen them fail. I have no confidence in that.
Right.
And so I don't look for that kind of change. And that's where I stand from. You know? If we want a good change, then let's be critical. Let's be very analytical so we don't repeat the same thing again and again and again. We keep on going backwards. We have not put 1 foot forward since 1980.
Great.
Mr. Gayman, let me come here, please.
I'm coming to you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is I have a master's degree in social research. When it comes to this platform, I decided, because people were coming on this platform, definitely not on this show. When you come on this show and you want to talk numbers, and I decided to go back to the real deal because of a gentleman by the name of Mame. When they started putting numbers around that didn't make sense, and people took them for what it is. My training would never allow me to do that. So I have decided to go into my statistical mode that when you say something, it will be fact checked. Now, let's go. I just fact checked you on 2. Let me fact check you on, just for the education of the public here. Okay? The same Derby that we talk about never left Liberia. They said they sold to a local company called Manco. Okay? They sold their compact and their infrastructure to a local manufacturing company called Manco, M-A-N-C-O, the West African country largest manufacturer of household health and cleaning products. So they didn't leave. Sam Derby sold her interest to a Liberian company called Manco. So when we're talking, the reason we are fact checking and still meeting you, when you say this platform,
functioning, where is it functioning?
Excuse me, if you say this platform is credible, then we have to make sure that it remains credible.
Yeah, but answer my question now. Where is Manco functioning?
Mr. Morris, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Gayman. And I wanted to make my statement before I even make it. I wanted to preface this. When people try to, question the credibility of this platform, remember this is an opinion show. This is not a straight news, platform. People come here, they have their own views, they express their own opinions. So don't question the credibility of this platform when people come and make their own, opinion-based statements. But let me say this, Mr. Gayman. We both support President Weah, but the person I blame for these kind of statements happening is President Weah. If he would have implemented a War Economic Crimes Court without considering any political dividend that he was going to not, maybe have some pushback from the people of Nimba because he is going to prosecute Prince Johnson and other warlords, he won't be in this situation. I think Prince Johnson and the likes of Joshua, Milton Bly has emboldened Joseph Boyka to make these kind of statements. Let's not forget, it came out recently, a few months ago, when Joseph Boyka, made a statement that after the 2017 election, Benin and Nigeria was pressuring him to put men in the street to destabilize the country. Did we forget that? He made that statement. I think we all remember that. So for me, Prince Johnson making that kind of statement, it doesn't scare me. The reality is the times in Africa, especially in West Africa, is different. Who's going to supply him with arms? Libya, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Guinea? Nobody's going to supply Prince Johnson with arms to have a sustained war. It's not going to happen. Joseph Boyka, at his age, he has a lot of family in Liberia. He has a lot of investment in Liberia. It's not going to destroy it because he doesn't become president. Mr. Eastman mentioned Al Gore. Not every vice president become president after they leave office. Al Gore was never president. George H.W. Bush, vice president, was never president. George W. Bush, vice president, was never president. The only person that became president that was vice president in the last 20 years has been Joe Biden, who just became president. And that was a extenuating circumstance because Trump was so terrible. So when Boyka is making those kind of statements, Prince Johnson should not forget he's not the only man in the country. There are other men in that country that will stand up to him. There are other people that can't wait to get a chance to get back at Prince Johnson. People are waiting for him. So when he opens his mouth and try to make these daunting statements that people are going to be so fearful because Prince Johnson is threatening war, then by just the statement that he made, they're not going to rig the election if they have intentions of rigging it. It doesn't work. So people like Mr. Manasa Kuala, hold on, Mr. Gayman. Let me finish my statement.
I want to chime
Hold
in
on.
something here. when you're talking
Hold on.
about the president, they didn't establish the Economic War Court. When you go to the Liberian Constitution, it says only the legislator have the power to establish courts. So
He didn't push for it, Mr. Gayman. He didn't push for it. I'm a supporter of this president, but I can be equally as critical when it comes to President Weah. He didn't push for the World Economic Crimes Court, and that's one of my biggest disappointment with him. Like somebody like Mr. Manaswat Carlson, who is an intellectual, making that statement that the country is going downhill anyway. By what measure is he measuring it? Is it worse than the time when Charles Taylor was in power in Liberia? Is it worse than the last 2 or 3 years of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government when the people were so tired with her government? So people can't say that let's go to war because everything is breaking down anyway. So thereby let's take power from these people's hands, or else our country will be a failed state. It was a failed state, failed state once before. So people making these statements, I hold I don't hold any weight to it. The main person that I hold weight on is these political institutions who have the partisans that's going to follow them. The people like Mo Ali making these statements that the election will be rigged, and if they try to rig the election, don't try it. You ever to fight government? People like Mo Ali, they were looking at some. I didn't want to even say something, but looking at some kind of chick. You ever to fight? You ever to get in the street and fight war? So when they're making these statements, they're depending on the people that's backing them to back them up when it comes time for action. So these guys are cowards. They're only going to hide behind people like Prince Johnson from past glory, the thing that they can intimidate the ruling establishment or the people of the country to vote in their favor, or else there will be war. This is not Charles Taylor time. Charles Taylor time came and passed. Nobody's going to be bullied into voting for somebody because we're afraid of war. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonglo. Before we close up on
I
this,
thought I'm out town. Are you jumping with me now?
I started with you. I went to Mr. Eastman. I went to him. And
Mr. Governor spoke. All of them spoke. What did me not speak yet?
Okay, Kamara can speak. Damn, speak.
Go ahead.
I'll wait to him first.
No, go ahead, sir.
Because I know where Mr. Gonglo come and go. He come and go somewhere totally different from the topic.
There you
but
go.
But you see, you're not letting me speak.
No, listen. There you go with the same wagger mentality. You know what's going to happen before it happens. Go ahead.
I guess speak now.
Go ahead.
Look, those who want to feel frightened can feel frightened if they like. Those who want to interpret other people's statement in manners that would put fear in the general public, hopefully they think they will gain something. We don't care. We can go ahead. The statement that this other person low like this, the other person low like that, that's what people said in Sudan. When the Sudanese people got ready, the president, they had to airlift him. So we're not talking about, the people are not talking about.
So you saying Mo Ali that fought on a train, season fighter, he had the foot war? That's what you saying? God say he lost some kind of way. Come on, man.
That man are milk prostitute.
Okay, so
don't say that, Mr. Gongo, don't say that for a bit. I'll be measuring my statement, but I'll leave it there.
Go ahead, Mr. Kamara.
Okay, so what will happen is that we have seen this thing. The man talked about the Arab Spring. This man is talking about the people will not allow it. We will not allow it. Your definition of that, it means war, then that is your choice. But I want to make this one suggestion on point. We need to have guest hosts around here. Either Anthony C. on one Sunday or Dennis Jah himself. Because Mr. Gayman, you are a failure as a host.
Thank you very much. Mr. Calabo Gonglo, here we are. We have decided, I personally have decided to have everyone, while this is an opinion show, when you come on here and try to pass your opinion as an academic instrument, then you will be checkmate. When you come here and say this company left, it's just a matter of checking whether it is true. So everything they are saying here is subject to fact checking. Here we are, the young man says, or man says, if they attempt to cheat, this is going to be the end of the country. Few months, few days, few hours actually, when he said he had total confidence in the Elections Commission and that they will do their work. In fact, they are Liberians too that have a vested interest in keeping the country safe. And then after Prince Johnson came out and said that if the president shoot, he would die, he would kill people, or they would kill him. These are not something that is subject to interpretation. The man said if he would kill us or we kill him. I don't know how you can interpret that, Mr. Gongo.
Well, listen, I think I made a point earlier, but before I even comment on that, let me just for the fun of it, Adio, the last comment you made to Mr. Gayman, when you describing whatever, he said thank you, right? That's the same way you guys argue. Whenever people criticize Banga, you say we agree. You know, so
of course. I agree.
Yeah, so Jerome just said thank you. He said thank you. Whatever you said to him, said thank
Jerome
you.
get thick skin. He Benedict alone.
Yeah. So listen. Look, on Thursday, Dr. Adula Dugle made a statement, and I'll repeat it myself. I'm going to repeat myself here. He said, if you, Dr. Dugle, say, if you do this, somebody will die. He says people could say it's a bluff talk because he's never killed anybody. He's never held gun. But Prince Johnson using gun, kill, and die in the same sentence, that's a war. He was very clear. Just like Alio, Morris Croman was on Tough Talking Thursday, basically saying what Prince Johnson said was a conditional statement. There will be no raking. There's no need for anybody to worry about it. And that said, I support Boyka. But that statement, Boyka should distance himself from that statement. In fact, the UP should hold a press conference to say this statement does not represent them. Instead of UP doing that, what did the Standard Bearer do? Because he's a state catcher. He was around him on the train, the riders on the train. And in fact, let me just add on that night, there was a caller that called. On Boyka train, there is Ebola there, there is corruption, there is murder there is COVID there. There was a caller. I forgot the caller.
I think it was Donnie Wawu or somebody like that.
Yeah, Wawu. He made a statement. Yeah. He said on Boyka train, these were the occupants of the train. Okay, I remember the description he made on that.
Mr. Gonglo, yeah. This is what it looks like when a man dances with the devil. This is the tango they're dancing right now. Exactly what Boyka said. Dancing with the devil.
CDC trainer, the CDC you're supporting, you're talking about they're on a train.
I just said
people there.
CDC should be rejected. How am I supporting it? But I think everything that is happening is actually planned and executed. That's the perfect reminder. When Boyka said you're going to dance with the devil, he planned that. He's a complete step catcher. That's exactly what I said. The thieves, the corrupt people, the murderer, all of them have captured him. They are now on his bike to go to the mansion, which I believe someone posted that they smell no taste. And I'm praying for that to happen. They will smell it, but they don't taste it. No.
They smell it.
Mr. Ismail, close up on this. We were on this particular platform. I think it was Friday night debate.
Friday, yeah.
There was a gentleman here by the name of, I think, Golake. I think his name is from Nima.
Yeah,
Jonathan Dolake.
Yeah. Dolake said, he says, I am willing to pay with my blood, sweat, and tears, whatever it takes to get George Weah off our necks. This is a man who is also a follower of Joseph Boyka.
The man's an ANC man.
I made an ANC. I know who you're talking about. I know you very well.
Excuse me. The gentleman, I asked him, I said, you sound like a unity partisan, and I asked Dennis John to push back. But what means are you going to use blood, spill blood to defend, to take George Weah off your neck? And he said, I'm categorical. I am not going to shy away. I am going to say exactly how I feel. Whatever it takes, my blood, I'm willing to do this. So this is what we are talking about, Mr. Eastman. The fish gets rotten from the head. What the head says, everything else follows. If you are hearing your leader, Trump is saying, come to the Capitol, take over the Capitol, do this, do that. And the people do it. And you can't say, I only said it, but I didn't do it. This is what we are seeing.
It's called incitement. They're inciting people.
That's correct. Mr. Eastman.
So we're concluding now, I gather.
Yes, yeah, you got it
You
last.
know, in politics, they say when a politician makes a statement that's erroneous or not in his best interest, they say it's a gaffe. I hear the argument now that they're claiming that VP Borkai's statement was in relation to something he had previously said, that another administration, another 6 years of weird administration will finish the country. But that's not what he said. And
Exactly.
he being a person who is well informed and speaks English, he knows he has to make a corrective statement to make sure that he means what he says. Okay, so I have to do if he allows his statements to be easily interpreted as someone else, that he holds himself to blame. Notwithstanding, I think the youth, our country needs to be managed by very responsible people, and we need fresh blood. We need new people around. I'm not willing to let take somebody to leave the devil I know for the devil I don't know.
The injury you don't know.
So I'm not willing. But we are here, all of us. What we supposed to be wanting is a better Liberia, not for us, because our times is over, but for the youth, for the future, so that they can grow up to be engineers, doctors, nurses, and do great things in our country. And if we're not, I'm not seeing those pieces being put together. I'm not seeing that pathway that will build our youth to somebody to be productive citizens. I don't see it being done. And that is my main concern. And I don't want more of the same, or change one to why they start learning uh, uh, um, how to do it. We got another time going. Well, somebody analyzed it this way, and I will leave you with this. There are all kinds of political analysts I listen to. And they said if the George administration wins this 6 years, guess what? He will not be able to run again. So we'll be done with him. Wakai and UP, they will not be able to run again. They will be done with them. So that means in another 6 years, we'll have a fresh new group. That's one analysis. Okay. So we must give ourselves a chance. Every 6 years is a new chance. And for no reason in this world should we go to war to kill ourselves for any politician who would tell us one thing and do another. Remember, a politician will always tell you what you want to hear in his best interest. He will never tell you everything he is planning to do. So with that reserve, go wisely, decide wisely, and use your critical thoughts.
Thank you.
Mr. Gayman, can we take calls today?
No, we got another show coming out at 6:00. We got 8 minutes here, so we need to wrap it up and move on. Mr. Kamara, you're closing.
Yeah. So this show, we say we're here to hold people accountable. When Mr. What is his name? Gwanglo said the entire rescue team is a criminal team and this and that and the other. And he want to always talk about Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government when he was a beneficiary, a direct beneficiary of the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government. If that government ever failed, Mr. Gwanglo sitting here is one of the reasons why that government failed. Do you understand me? He was a decision maker at the Ministry of Labor, and we know that. We know he enjoyed gas slips and other immunities from government. Now, one day that he rejected. Today, the government failed. Now we say on here again, we need a fresh dish, we need a young dish. What's more younger than the George Weah administration? We've always had the young people run Liberia unless we're not aware of the reality. Joseph Jingeraba was a young boy, Liberian speaking, 30-something years old. All of
responsible. We say responsible. We say young. Responsible.
Oh. Okay. Let me change it from young now because you say you want to fresh blood. I don't know fresh blood means responsible.
Fresh blood don't necessarily mean young. It means no recycled politician there.
Oh, you will find some somewhere. Well, will not be
Or
recycled.
someone who has been in government 60
But
years.
let me be president.
Go ahead, Kamara. I know they didn't hate you when they say 50 years in government. You don't want to hear that.
President, there is no way in the history of Liberia, not anytime soon in the next 100 years, that you will find someone that the Liberian people will vote for who has not already been in government before. You can swing commies around all over that country. Remember my word today. Anybody who wins that election is somebody who has already been in government before in the past. That is how it's going to be. It's an issue of politics of acquaintance. That's how Liberia rolls. Now, JMP have always said that this country is done under George Weah. If George Weah should win again, the Liberian people must be aware that this country is finished. He has not made that statement once, not twice, not three times, multiple times. In this forum, he only re-echo. In this case, he is convicted that he is going to win this election, and therefore he will not allow, the underlying word is allow, the CDC to rig the election, because if they do, this country is finished. How can you guys take that as Joseph Boga say, this is how you bring war to the country? You understand what I'm saying? So, look, let me be frank with you, Mr. Gayman. I thank you for trying today, but we will not allow this show to be a CDC show. Mr. Guevlo, you need to be clear. I think we understand your point. You know that your brother cannot win the election, cannot even count third place. So what do? You are going behind the CDC. And maybe that's a bright idea for you. You can stick there. But there is no document anywhere, there is no audit report anywhere that declares 66 agreement as a Booker concession agreement. Never. So stop making that up. Thank you so much for having me.
Great, Mr. Gola, he mentioned your name, so I guess you got the next 2 minutes.
What there are some things you don't just make comment on. The most even audit report is online. When you get to Alio, just behind your computer.
I've seen it. It is a Booker.
I mean, my choice of words, but it's red. It's right there. The 66 did not meet minimum requirement of our law. That is including.
That's why you modify it.
So it's there. So we can debate the semantics of my choice of words. We can do all that one, but that's besides the point. So here is what I will say. I think tonight this was a good interaction. This has been my first time appearing on your show. I hope I can come next Sunday. But here what I will say. My parting comment is basically that Joseph Boakai, and I will repeat myself on this. Joseph Boakai has become desperate for power. He's in his 80s, and this is his last
He's 70 years old, not 80.
He close to 80.
This is my man. When you run that thing, what are 80?
No, that's not how it works.
Joseph Boakai doesn't know when he was born, so he could be 90.
No, when you run it once it pass 5, you run it to the next 10.
It's very question.
I just said, if you are 74, I would say he's 70, but past that, he's 80. So he's desperate because he's approaching his biological end. I mean, there is no way he can have another.
Gentlemen, gotta go, man.
Okay, he's approaching his biological.
Yeah, they cannot.
So he's desperate for power. Then second, on that train with him, there were guys who were in bed with we are, like the likes of James Barney, the likes of Senator Kuhn, the likes of Senator Johnson. In fact, Senator Kuhn and Johnson actually took millions of dollars from the CDC on the guys that they were going to run campaign for them, and they flipped over to Boakai. So all of a sudden, they are haunted by their own misdeeds. That if we are wins, they are done forever. So they become desperate for power. All these machinations and threats of war is because Boakai is desperate. That's his last biological chance to contest on the part of his so-called Rescue 2 and Prince Johnson. They are also in fear and frightful that if we are wins, they are also done. They don't know what possibly the government could do to them, whether they will be silent and buried for the next 6 years of the weird thing. So that whole camp is a camp of desperado. I will end on that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Morris, you got 1 minute here.
Thank you. I will kind of follow up what Mr. Gongler said. Prince Johnson made one statement. He said to the mayor of Balege, I think his name is, I don't know, it was Johnson Guegro or somebody, I forgot the name. But he said, you think it would be good for if they may embarrass us? Who is the us? Is he talking about the people in Nima or he talking about himself, Prince Johnson? And I think that's what Mr. Gongler is alluding to, because he knows that if President Weah wins these elections, he has no more elections to run. Like Obama said, I won both of them. So President Weah can take, actions against him without any political, repercussions. So Prince Johnson knows that if Weah win these elections, there may likely be a war crimes court. There may likely be a case against him for corruption because, trust me, the government know where the bodies are buried. Same thing that goes for Congo. So for me, I would say this. I'm not a weird sycophant. I support this president when if it's a binary choice between him and Boyka as a seem, to be the top two candidate, I support President Weah. For the simple fact that Joseph Boyka picked Prince Johnson Godson as his running mate, I cannot support Joseph Boyka. Under no circumstances can I support him. So it's not even a issue of, oh, you got to be patriotic, you're a young man, well, you got to support Joseph Boyka because it's the best interest of the country. Prince Johnson is the best interest of Liberia. Are you saying that for us? It's not the best interest of our. So I can, in good conscience to myself and the many people that Prince Johnson killed during the war, ever vote in favor of Prince Johnson coming anywhere close to the vice presidency of our country. So definitely, if it's between Boyka and Prince, and a Boyka, aka Prince Johnson, I'm voting for Weah every time, or I will support Weah every time. So they can be all the war drums that they want. The international community will not allow war to come into that country. Everybody is watching these elections. Nobody's going to the bushes. They will cry sour grapes. They may go in the street and protest, but it will not escalate to war. So I think we have nothing to fear. Go out and vote October 10. Vote for your preferred candidate. Whoever wins these elections, they have the Liberian people's support. Thank you. I'll leave it there.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for another edition of On Point. Mr. Gonglo, welcome. And your debut was fiery and very insightful. This is what we are talking about. We need to checkmate each other. These shows should not be shows when you just come make statements and nobody checkmates you, especially when the numbers are available. And now this is what we are doing. If you come out here and say something, if it's only based on your opinion, that's fine. But when you want to quote, then we'll make sure that you quote right. If you want to recite, we want to make sure that you have that recitation right. So this is where we are at this point. When you go into a quote the World Bank, you better have the numbers and have the numbers ready because they are all available. You can't say because I got it off the internet, it's on the internet, but it has the citation where that data comes from. And all you have to click on it, it is there. So we're going to make sure that these things happen, whether you like it or not. If someone tells you, like Prince Johnson said, when we started this thing, they made Charles Taylor president. They made Ellie Johnson president. It's my turn to be president. They are not treating me fair. Then he turns around and lobbied for his son, his godson, to be the vice president. And he made it clear in a recording. He said, what do you think? This man is old. He said, this man using battery. He's a battery total. He's dead in all the recordings. And then on the other hand, he said, what do you think, what position do we in? Joseph Walker is going to be sick. He's going to be disabled. We are going to run the show. He said, who do you think is going to run the show? Jeremiah Cohen is going to run the show. And then Nima running the show. And this is not how we know our Nima brother to want to run to the office. They want to earn it. They are hard workers. Like Siri Allen said, these people have developed their county to be the #1 county. Outside of Montserrat, you think they're going to sit there and destroy their county because one man says he wants to be the godfather? I don't think so. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Next Sunday, same time, Mr. Gonglo is going to be here. Mr. Morris is going to be here. Mr. Eastman is going to be here. And if it's 4 o'clock on Sunday, it is on point. We always close with our song that we are all Liberian, no matter where you are from the opposition, in position, or no opposition. We are all Liberians.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home. Liberian people.